Hello. I don't think I got my screen sorted out before I started my video. How's it going? I am here on fall break. I took a few days off last week. I'm going to give you some strategies, but a lot has been written about this over, a few decades, I would say. When you first start out, you can just do racism and childhood. That's the same as going to advanced search in the library homepage and doing racism on one line and childhood on another line. And you could add another line too. Since I know there's a lot on this, we could do longitudinal, that's long term, or long term. So longitudinal is like where they know that there's a specific population or a sample of a population that has undergone trauma from discrimination or racism. And we could even do like specific named populations. So it could be poverty, could be a particular ethnicity or ancestry, or it could be a place in the country. So you could look at like Alabama or Chicago or Los Angeles. But yeah, I think your search terms are really good. So when you do a search in the library catalog, there's only 204. I would say maybe longitudinal long term you could take out, but if you needed articles, you just click on the articles here. Or if you wanted peer reviewed, which is just like the evidence-based creme de la creme, it's going to be looking at it from a variety of different perspectives. A lot of case studies where somebody has done something. So like this first one is a youth development program. They're going to be looking at the effects of that. And so there's an intervention in psychology, or here's like a socioeconomic status. So if you get these that are kind of like too niche into a particular thing, you can back out and just look at racism and childhood. But there's so many of these. There's like obesity, adverse childhood experiences in 2014. You could look at timeframes too. But you can expand it. And we can just get rid of this one and just search in that regard. And then you might run into like books and things like that. The Cat in the Hat, Irish Travelers, and again, you can go to like peer-reviewed journals. But still, how do we narrow it down to like a discipline? These might be, these actually look pretty good. How do we get around that? Well, I have something to show you. So if you go to databases, you can go into generic databases, but you can also go into very specific ones. And since we're looking at childhood and we're looking at racism, it's kind of like social sciences. So let me give you 3 favorite databases to go with. The first one is you can go by sociology. Let's go to sociology. Sociology is looking at communities and how they interact with each other, people's values, populations, ancestry, all of that mixed together. Sociological abstract, sociology. We could do racism and childhood. I don't know if we need to do longitudinal, but you might add that if there's too much. Are there other names for racism? Do you want to use discrimination, or is that too... Racism is pretty overt, and discrimination is kind of like, it loosens up the criteria. Childhood. Are there other names for childhood? Look at there, the top one, bad childhood. I was just with my friends in Las Vegas, and I was telling them, oh, you're just that way because you had a bad childhood, and they got annoyed with me. It was a joke, though. But it seems kind of true. If you have a bad childhood, there's like all sorts of things that you have barriers in front of you. When you're looking at results, know that we're in sociology, or group psychology a little bit, but you can go into more recent stuff. That's one way of narrowing it down. So like the articles from the last 3 years, there's nothing from 2029 yet. That's one way to narrow down, because research methodology has changed. It's changing constantly. And so there's a greater emphasis on mental health since the pandemic. You can also go down to subject, and you can see what are the contexts that people are writing about, and I'll go to more. So racism obviously is going to be part of all of these, but you could look at Black people, and you could look at how does racism manifest itself? How do they find evidence of that? It could be like access to health, education, any number of these different things. So when they say Black people, the study does define a specific population, and the people have to self-identify as an African American or a Black person or somebody of African ancestry. All of those things are evidence-based, so we can't. It's very unbiased. So that one looks pretty good. And you can get full text and things like this. A couple other databases that I recommend you try. One is called PAIS. I don't know how to find it, except to click on the letter P. This is public policy, which is great because then they're looking for, what do we do about racism in childhood? You can ignore this yellow bar, and you can do the date things. So it's a similar looking database, but you can see what have we done in public policy. So this is governments, city, county, state, federal. And so these are people who use evidence-based materials to then create an intervention for racism or for children or traumatic experiences. So look at this. School-based prevention. There's a campaign with an acronym. So this is another way to go. Last database that I want to show you, well, actually a good one would be education. If you don't find what you're looking for, you can go to education. Education full text is really good. But a great one is called Scopus, S-C-O-P-U-S. This looks at many different disciplines, but it can give us the articles that have had the most impact, or in another way of saying it, the ones that have been cited the most. So let's add a search field, and I'll do racism and childhood. And again, you could add longitudinal. So, and let's come up to our current era. Wow, look at how many have been published since 2019. That's an amazing amount of articles. So out of all of these, what's the most important one? The one, arguably, the one that's been cited the most. And so 218, this article has been cited 218 times. Another way of saying it is these 218 articles couldn't exist unless they cited this article, Reducing Racial Inequities in Health. So you could do this, all sorts of different angles or disciplines, methodologies, and things like that. How you get the full text of these, resilient outcomes. So a lot of these are going to be interventions that people are testing. In the social sciences, there's a lot of descriptions of problems, but I would say there's more about like, well, let's give this a try. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of those. In this one, in this database, getting full text is annoying. You see this view PDF. Who knows where that goes? Oh, it worked! Well, shut my mouth. Normally that doesn't work. If that one doesn't work, full text options, and then find it. We'll send you to the library catalog, and it'll tell you what databases you can find it in. So here's the list of databases you can find it in. Or you can request it through interlibrary loan. If you have any questions, let me know. There's a lot written on this topic, so I would suggest that you maybe find something about one little piece, and then another little piece, and then another little piece, and then develop that kind of like stones walking over a creek. So you're stepping, your reader doesn't know until they've stepped on each logical point that you're guiding them with articles. But let me know how it goes, and thanks for reaching out. Have a nice day.